This tent is made in China. And so is this tent, and so is this other one as well.
Now you're gonna notice that they all are a similar pop-out clamshell style. But one thing that's gonna amaze you is the prices for these are not similar at all.
I've had a ton of people tell me that all of these tents are basically made in the same exact factory in China. And the thing is, if that was true, how in the world are you supposed to know if you're getting a good deal? I'm gonna show you. About 2 years ago, one of these tent manufacturers from China actually reached out to Outdoor Auto. They reached out to me to see if I wanted to make an Outdoor Auto branded tent offering. I, of course, told them no, because I really don't want to run a tent company. It was the first time I became aware of wholesale pricing and kind of how tent companies run their business. These tent companies, there is more than one of them, just so you guys know. They're not all made in the exact same factory in China, like a lot of people say. But it is companies that are producing tents for lots of different people. So for example, I find it interesting, for example, Roof Nest says on their site that they have an exclusive tent manufacturing plant in China. They don't claim to own it, they just say that they have an exclusive factory that makes their tents. But I don't know if that's true or not. When you go to sites like Import Yeti, where it can show you who supplies tents or who supplies anything that is imported to the US and then rebranded with somebody else's name, I can see right on the site the different companies that supply tents for Roof Nest, and then I can see the other companies that they supply. And one example is there's a company out there that supplies Roof Nest with Falcon tents, and they also supply overland vehicle systems with tents as well. So you guys get how this works. There are tons and tons of brands in the US. These tents are made in China. They're coming over on ships, and somebody is simply putting their brand name over on the side, and then they're reselling them. A wholesale rooftop tent for $3.99 that even has this newer style, innovative pop-out design seems like a really great deal. But you have to remember a few things. First of all, that tent at $3.99 has to be picked up in China. Secondly, it's only at that price if you buy 100 of them. So you would have to buy them in quantities of 100 to get that price. But even if you didn't bulk buy it, I can see a lot of people that would say, it's $3.99, that still seems like such a great deal. I bet I could get one for a lot less than $2,000 bucks or $4,000. But here's a couple things to think about. First of all, companies like Roof Nest or companies like Topoak work with these manufacturers to do increased niceties or finishes on these tents to improve them. So like the base model one that you're seeing for $3.99 in that picture that I already showed you, that where you bulk buy it, you know, for example, it has no rain awnings. So when you're trying to get in and out of your tent, if it's raining, you just get rained on. It doesn't have the nice blackout interior. So this one has an additional layer on the inside of the fabric that makes it to where you can sleep in it even when it's light outside. It's really, really nice. There's a lot of other additional add-ons that have been done to this tent. Okay, really quick, that $3.99 tent does kind of look pretty appealing. What is involved in getting one of those to the US? Thankfully, there was somebody named Matthew that went and did this for us, so we don't have to. And he took note of every single fee that he ended up paying. He started at a cheap tent, he did a few upgrades on it to where it was a little bit better tent. The tent ended up costing him $8.25 because it's not $3.99 when you're only ordering one of them. Then after these 20 fees that you're gonna see here, if you're really fast at math, you're gonna add those up and you're gonna realize those cost $1,635.23. By the time he ordered this tent and actually got it to his house, 87 days had went by. Now, if you'd also do the math, $825 plus $1,635 in fees. We're talking a $2,460 tent by the time you got it. Here's the thing that's a little shocking about that. This tent costs about $1,700. I think there's a coupon for like a week that's like $80 off. That includes shipping to your house, and it has better finishes, because the only people that actually have the extremely upgraded finishes like this is when somebody like Topoak, somebody like Roof Nest works specifically with that tent manufacturer and comes up with new features to add to tents. That's how these companies differentiate from each other. So there's always the base model, and they take, okay, I'll take that base model, but let's add all of these things. Okay, some other background information on rooftop tents and YouTubers. A lot of tent companies will send YouTubers free tents for testing, and a lot of them will even pay you to run their tents. But then they tend to require you to check with them on what you're going to say about their tents. And for example, a lot of times, if they're going to pay you to review their tent, they don't want you to talk about their competitors on the same video. So I don't take the money from the tent companies to make videos about tents. They offer it to me and I decline it. I did get this tent for free. I get lots of tents for free. I've actually tested over 30 tents. There's one video where I actually review 20 tents in one video. So if you're really trying to learn a lot about rooftop tents, go watch that video. Here's the deal though. All these tent companies have what's called an affiliate program, where you post a link, and if somebody clicks on the link and you buy a tent from them, then I earn commission. That's generally how people like me, a YouTuber, actually make money, because the YouTube videos themselves, even if they have 1 million views, doesn't actually pay almost anything. I'm telling you a lot about a lot of different tents. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. Buy whatever you want. Roof Nest makes a $4,000 version of this test, and some of you guys are gonna latch on to a couple of the upgrades on that tent, and that is actually worth it for you. But keep in mind, to import a tent similar to some of these yourselves, you're spending at a minimum of $2,600. So by the time you jump all the way to $4,000, Roof Nest is definitely more of a premium product, just like Gucci's a premium duffel bag. You don't think those duffel bags actually cost $1,900 to make, right? So they're making either more money off of selling you that $4,000 tent, or the company's not managed as well and isn't as lean as somebody like Topoak that can sell this tent for $1,700 and still somehow make money on it. At $1,700, my hunch is these guys are probably only making about $200 to $250 per tent. Not a lot of companies are lean enough to be able to sell a tent at that margin and still make money. So this is kind of why I always default, when somebody asks me for a tent recommendation and they want a wedge tent, I tell them, go get this one. Because you aren't paying any mismanagement tax. You aren't paying bloated company tax. If you guys think about it, when COVID happened, REI blew up huge because everybody was doing all those outdoor activities. They hired tons of employees. They had more stores open up. Well, now that COVID is gone and it's returning essentially back to how it was before COVID, they have this huge problem. They're like in trouble if you look at their company's performance. Well, I'm not trying to be mean, but that's called mismanagement. When you scale up because of something that happens in the market, you also have to remember how to scale back down when it slows down. If you're with a company that doesn't know how to do that, the way that they make up for that is raising prices and charging you more and passing the cost on to you. So in the case of rooftop tents, I wanted to jump into the whole China story. They really are building these tents for like $500, $600, $700. But, it costs $1,600 in fees just to get them to the United States. Now you have those numbers in your head. Now you can go look at tents and you can look at what feature set and additions and upgrades they have, and you get to pick, is it worth it? Is it worth it to pay $2,000 in upgrades? Is it worth it to pay $200 in upgrades? Totally your choice. While you're doing that, if you can do me a favor and you do buy a tent, use one of my links, because then I can afford to keep making educational videos like this for you guys. So I appreciate that. By the way, I promised that I would answer the question on this new tent. What were the 4 upgrades that they did? By the way, they have put this tent out. This tent has only been out for a little over 2 years. They've upgraded it 4 times. So they're doing iterations about every 6 months of improving their product based on the feedback that all of us are giving them. That's amazing. Most companies are only putting out new tents like every 18 to 24 months. So these guys' upgrade cycle is crazy fast. The 4 changes that they made is they added the different style awning that goes all the way around instead of just the little windows on the side. So you have rain protection all the way around, which is rad, because it used to always drip off right here onto you when you're climbing in and out. They also added in the port for you to put a diesel heater hose through, so you don't have to zip it up in your zipper anymore, which is great because usually when you're using a diesel heater, a lot of times it's because it's bad weather or winter. So now you have less likelihood of moisture to get into your tent. That was a feedback that a bunch of people gave them, and look at that, like less than 6 months later, boom, we have a new tent and it has it. They also added an Anderson port on the bottom of the tent right back here, where you can plug in to your battery power that you have in your vehicle, if you have that, or to solar panels, so you can have power inside of your tent. It gives you 2 USB ports, like a USB-C and a regular one, and it also gives you a 12-volt like cigarette port to be able to plug in like heated blankets or lights or whatever you want. There is already a light in here, so that can plug in there. So it was really cool that they did that, because when you drill the bottom of a brand new tent to install the wires yourself, it's a little intimidating and can sometimes go very wrong. In addition to that, the final upgrade was this little bar that you pull up out here to pop this pop out. They actually integrated locks down here, so it'll lock it into place. It used to be the only way to get it to lock into place was to do this bar up on the top. And while you're trying to pop that into place and then get this bar in place, like for stormy weather, the whole thing would flop around a lot. So those locks down there actually help you get it set up a lot easier. And if you're not camping in bad weather, you can actually just get away with using only those locks to support this, and you don't even have to put up the top bar anymore. So they're just trying to make that simpler. So again, this is a great tent for $1,700. You literally can't import one yourself cheaper. Check out RoofNest's new tent as well. It has changes in upgrades that might make sense for you at that price point. But beyond that, there's not a lot of other wedge tent companies out there, just the basic wedges from China, that are adding features and pushing the buck every single year, just adding new features. So check them out. If you do ever get into that $4,000 price range like RoofNest, just remember there's even tents that aren't made in China. There's tents that are made in the United States that are at that price point, like the Go Fast Topper that supports local jobs and even the local economy right there in Montana, I think where their headquarters is. There is tents that are made in other places also, like South Korea, like iCamper, that are in that same price range as well. So there's a lot of options out there. But as far as getting to the bottom of the Chinese tents, they're not all made in the same factory, but they're made in a select few. People are just sticking their names on the side of them and reselling them, and some are doing that at all different levels. And then some of them are working with those companies to drive innovation and keep changing the tents to try to stay ahead of the competition and add features. Topoak right now seems to be the one that's doing that best at the most affordable price point. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. We'll talk to you guys soon.